Okay, good morning everybody. So we were at the physiology of digestion. We have finished the digestion in the buccal cavity. First of all, what's the definition of digestion? Digestion is the process where complex food substances are broken down into simple absorbable forms, right? Simple absorbable. This is the digestion. It constitutes two processes, right? Remember the chemical process, which involves all the digestive juices and the enzymatic processes that go along with it, and the mechanical processes. Starting off from the mouth, the buccal cavity, the chewing, the mastication by the teeth, tearing and grinding, the mixing of the food with the saliva by the tongue, and the deglutition. Deglutition. What does deglutition mean? It means swallowing of the food. These all considered the mechanical processes. They are also we also know that if we take a section of it, the gut consists of a muscular layer. Just below the serosal layer, there's a muscular layer, right? We call it muscularis externa. Muscularis externa. Okay. Let's take. So this has the longitudinal and the circular muscles. Of course, in the stomach, we also find the oblique muscles. These help in the turning of the food. The turning also helps in the mixing of all the digestive juices with the different parts of the GI tract. So those are the two processes, the mechanical and the chemical processes. We also know we have also completed the digestion in the buccal cavity, right? Remember, in the buccal cavity, what happens? Only carbohydrate digestion takes place, and that too not complete. So what happens? 30% of starch is converted to a disaccharide, which is maltose. And the enzyme that acts on it, we've finished this, people. What is it? It is salivary amylase. Salivary amylase. So that's the buccal cavity. It's alkaline. The salivary juice consists of not just the salivary amylase, but also consists of lysozyme and mucus. Mucus binds the food together. And the lysozyme helps in killing the bacteria. That's what happens in the buccal cavity. The only component of the food that gets digested in the buccal cavity is carbohydrate. Then it comes to stomach. Okay, here we go. What happens in stomach? In stomach, we know that the enzymes that are released are the proenzymes, and they are, let's take the prorenin and pepsinogen, right? These two are the proenzymes. These are in the inactive state. These are converted to active state in the presence of HCl. In the presence of HCl, they are converted to renin and pepsin. So the component that is digested in the stomach is proteins. Not the complete digestion, but a part of it. So let's see what happens. In kids, in children, they drink a lot of milk, right? The protein present in the milk is casein. Let's take green. So casein is acted upon by renin in the presence of calcium. Remember the spelling, people. There's two N's in this renin. Renin converts casein in the presence of calcium to calcium paracasein. This calcium paracasein is acted upon by pepsin. To convert to peptones. Now the pepsin also converts proteins what does it? Pepsin also converts proteins into proteoses and peptones. These are at varying degrees of digestion. These proteoses are a little bit bigger than peptones. The end product of protein digestion is not proteoses and peptones but amino acids. So the proteins are partially digested in the stomach. The enzymes pepsin acts in the acidic medium, hence the HCl. HCl also it not only gives the acidic medium for these enzymes to act on proteins, but it also kills the germs. We've also seen the germ killing in buccal cavity by lysozymes. Next comes the small intestines. So let's see what happens in the small intestines. We finished until this part, right? Until the stomach. So in the small intestines, we know that the complete digestion takes place. Not just the complete digestion, but also the absorption takes place. So now let's start off with the digestive part of it. So what are the three main components of the food we eat? Carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, right? So let's take carbs first. Now these carbohydrates are acted upon by pancreatic amylase. And they are converted to disaccharides. So what are the different disaccharides that we come across here? We've also seen that in the buccal cavity, starch is converted to a disaccharide, maltose. So the disaccharides we come across are, let's take maltose, sucrose, and lactose. These are the disaccharides. The disaccharides are not the end product of carbohydrate digestion. What are monosaccharides, right? So these need to be converted into monosaccharides. So maltose is acted upon by maltase. Sucrose is acted upon by sucrase. Lactose is acted upon by lactase, and they are converted to, maltose is converted to two molecules of glucose, and sucrose, which is also known as invertase, is converted to maltose, sucrose, and lactose. And these are acted upon by disaccharidases, which are maltase, sucrase, and lactase, and they convert to two molecules of glucose and fructose, and glucose and galactose respectively. Okay, with that we come to the end of the carbohydrate digestion. So next comes proteins. Let's take black. So protein digestion, right? We know the protein digestion has already started in the stomach, right? And they are converted to proteases and peptones. In the pancreatic juice, we find trypsinogen, which is an inactive enzyme. This is converted to trypsin by the enzyme Enterogastron. Now this trypsin, once it is produced from trypsinogen, it autocatalyzes itself. Back to trypsin, so that more and more of trypsin is produced. Remember this autocatalysis. First, at the beginning, trypsinogen needs to be converted to trypsin by enterokinase. It can do it by itself by autocatalysis. This trypsin acts on chymotrypsinogen. This is also another enzyme present in pancreatic juice. Chymotrypsinogen. Chymotrypsinogen gets converted by trypsin to chymotrypsin. Now that we have the active enzymes present, remember a lot of the enzymes in this digestive tract are produced in an inactive state so that they don't start digesting the wall of the GI tract. It's called excoriation, especially in the stomach. The mucus and the bicarbonates produced by the cells in the stomach actually helps to protect the lining. In the same way, most of the enzymes are produced by the glands also. They're produced in an active state so that they don't start digesting the cells that produce them. So these need to be converted into active state, and we find that trypsin and chymotrypsin are in the active state now. And these act upon the proteins, the partly digested proteins, which are proteases and peptones. Remember from the stomach? These are acted upon by trypsin, chymotrypsin, carboxypeptidases from succus centricus, aminopeptidases, intestinal juices. These are converted to tripeptides and dipeptides. And let's move this a little bit. Tripeptides and dipeptides. This is not the end product of the protein digestion, right? Still more, these need to be broken down to amino acids. So the tripeptides are converted to dipeptides and amino acids. And the dipeptides are converted to amino acids. These amino acids are the end product of protein digestion. And the enzyme that helps the tripeptides to convert it to dipeptides and amino acids are tripeptidases and dipeptidases are acted upon or act upon dipeptides. amino acids. So this is the end product of protein digestion. So to go over it again, pancreatic juice consists of inactive enzymes called trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen. The trypsinogen first converts to trypsin then is converted to trypsin by enterokinase. Once the trypsin is produced, this autocatalyzes itself to produce more of the trypsin, and this again converts trypsinogen into active trypsinogen. Chymotrypsinogen to active chymotrypsinogen. Yes. I forgot to write the version here. Where is my pen? Okay. The proteins, proteases, and peptones are acted upon by trypsin, chymotrypsinogen, carboxypeptidase, aminopeptidase. So these are all together the proteolytic enzymes present in pancreatic juice, and also the succintricus, which is the intestinal juice. These convert the proteins, proteases, and peptones into tripeptides and dipeptides. The tripeptides are acted upon by tripeptidases to produce dipeptides and amino acids, and the dipeptides are acted upon by dipeptidases to produce amino acids. With that, we come to the end of the protein digestion. So what is left? We still have lipids to deal with, right? So let's look at lipids. Now, the only juice in the digestive juices that are produced or associated with the GI tract, the only one that doesn't have enzymes is bile. This emulsifies fat. Now, what is emulsification? Emulsification is nothing but the broken down, the lipids are broken down into smaller droplets called the micelles. Called the micelles. These are acted upon by the lipases present in intestinal juice and also the pancreatic juice. So, fat droplets are acted upon by lipases to diglycerides, monoglycerides, to fatty acids and cholesterol. This is the end product of fat digestion. Now the fats, these are broken down to triglyceride and diglycerides by lipases present in the intestinal juices and the pancreatic juice. The lipase present in the pancreatic juice is called pancreatic lipase, or also called as diaphragm. And there are lipases present in the intestinal juice also. These together act on the fats to convert them into diglycerides and ultimately into fatty acids and glycerol. This is the final end product of fat digestion. Now there are also nucleic acids present, right, in the cells, in the nucleus. In the nucleus, we find the nucleic acids, right? What are the nucleic acids? Nucleic acids. They are the DNA and the RNA. These are acted upon by DNAs and RNAs. And they are converted to nucleotides. These nucleotides are acted upon by nucleosidases. Nucleosidases. give you nucleosides and phosphate. And these nucleotides are acted upon by nucleosidases to produce your sugars, pentose sugars and bases. Your A, T, T, C. Adenine, thymine, guanine and cytosine. The ribose, deoxyribose and the ribose sugars present in DNA and RNA respectively. So go over one more time. The nucleic acids or the DNA and the RNA are acted upon by DNAs and RNAs to convert it into nucleotides. The nucleotides are acted upon by nucleotidases to give you nucleosides and phosphates. The nucleosides are acted upon by nucleosidases to give you sugars and bases. These are the final end product of the digestion of nucleotides. Now we know the complete digestion of the food. So what are the end products? The end products of carbohydrate digestion is glucose, galactose and fructose, right? Monosaccharides. Then we have proteins, right? These are converted to amino acids. Now the last one is the fats. These are converted to fatty acids and glycerol. These are the end products of the digestive process. Now these are in the lumen of the gut or in the small intestines. Most of the digestion takes place in the small intestine, and the absorption, most of the absorption takes place in the small intestines. The water and a little bit drugs are absorbed from the buccal cavity, from under the tongue, and also from the stomach. And the simple sugars are also absorbed in the stomach. The rest of it is the rest of the absorption takes place in the small intestine. So let's see how that happens. Now we know that the glucose and galactose and fructose are the end product of carbohydrate digestion. So glucose and galactose, they get into from the lumen, they get into the epithelial cells through SAT. That is secondary active transport. Now from the epithelial cells, they need to get into the bloodstream, right? The vessels. That happens through facilitated diffusion. That is glucose and galactose. Now there's one more left, right? The end product, fructose. Fructose goes into the epithelial cells through facilitated diffusion. From there into the bloodstream, it still goes through facilitated diffusion into the blood. So the mechanism of the absorption of fructose is simple. It goes through facilitated diffusion. But glucose and galactose, first it needs to enter the epithelial cells through secondary active transport coupled with the sodium ion. into the epithelial cells, and from there it enters the bloodstream through facilitated diffusion. The next is the amino acids. Amino acids also go through the same process as the glucose and galactose. Now coming to the fatty acids, the small chain fatty acids. Let's take someplace else. The small chain fatty acids, they enter the bloodstream through diffusion. All the way from the lumen to the bloodstream, it goes through simple diffusion. But what happens when there are long chain fatty acids? Now there's a different process for this. So let's see. These, when they need to, this is the lumen, right? So the long chain fatty acids needs to enter the epithelial cell. Let's say this is one cell. These fatty acids are broken down into tiny droplets. These are called micelles. We've already come across this. Once they enter into the cell, these micelles are coated with protein. Now these are called chylomicrons. And these gets pinched off from the protoplasmic membrane into, and here you have the blood vessels, the capillary network. This we know is the lacteum. But here we have the capillary network. Now the pinched off chylomicron, the process which is known as exocytosis, endo means inside, exo means out. Where is my pointer? Okay, it goes off with exocytosis. And these cannot enter into the blood supply, like the glucose, your fructose, and the amino acids that enter into the blood supply directly. But these are too big for them to enter into the blood supply, so they are taken into the lacteals. See this? This is the lacteal. And from there, it is carried through lymph. Remember that lymph is a parallel transport system that aids your venous system. It runs parallel to the venous system. So this lymph gets carried through the thoracic duct into the subclavian vein. Now from there, it is carried to the rest of the body where it is utilized to produce energy. And the rest of it is taken to the liver or adipocytes in the adipose tissue and stored as fat. Okay, so the small chain fatty acids goes through simple diffusion, but the long chain fatty acids cannot go through. So how do they go? From the lumen as micelles, they enter into the cells. There they're coated by protein, which are called chylomicrons. They exit out by exocytosis, get into the lacteals, and through the lymph, it is carried through the lymphatic system, and ultimately it reaches the subclavian vein through the thoracic duct and reaches the rest of the body. But the excess is stored in the adipocytes or the cells of the adipose tissue as fat, and also in the liver. Now let's look at the picture. Maybe you will understand it better. Let's see. See, there are two kinds of transport, active and passive. Passive means there is no utilization of energy. In the active transport, we expend energy, usually in the form of ATP. It is used to actually get the materials from the outside to the inside of the cell. There is simple diffusion, there is ionic channel diffusion, and the facilitated diffusion. This is our passive transport. In the active transport, they use energy. And with the glucose and galactose, it is coupled with the sodium ions. It is called secondary active transport. It's transported into the cell. Before that happens, there is a sodium potassium pump here. It is pumping sodium to the outside. So there is a gradient produced. There's less of sodium inside and more of sodium on the outside. So this sodium enters into the cell because of the lower concentration that is produced by the sodium potassium pump, which uses the ATP. But this glucose and galactose rides on this. When this is transporting the sodium into the cell because of the gradient, it goes along with the sodium into the cell. This is the epithelial cell, but it hasn't stopped there. It still needs to get into the bloodstream, right? So that it should get transported to the rest of the cells in the body. How does that happen? That happens through facilitated diffusion. Facilitated diffusion is through the transmembrane protein present in the plasma membrane. These transfer the glucose and the galactose from the inside of the epithelial cells to the outside. And from there, they enter into the capillaries, or blood vessels of the bloodstream. And the fats, as you know from the intestines, the microvilli, this is the lactea present inside. These are the arteries, veins, the supply of blood, but they can't enter into the capillary network, so they enter the lacteals. But first they need to be emulsified, that means broken down into smaller and smaller droplets. And these are coming through the simple diffusion that are coated by the protein. They're formed into triglycerides. They're coated by the protein, and they come out. They are called chylomicrons, and they come out by the exocytosis. They cannot enter the capillary because they are too big, and they enter into the lymphatic system and get dumped into the left subclavian vein through the thoracic duct. And once inside here, inside the endothelial cells, in here, they have a lipoprotein lipase. Lipoprotein lipase. Okay. So this in the endothelial cells, this converts this protein-coated triglyceride into glycerol, fatty acids and glycerol. Okay, and then it is used for generation of energy or stored. This is the lacteal. I drew a crude picture, but if you want to look at it, it's the epithelium and this is the blood supply. And the fat is transferred through the lymph, through the lacteal, absorbed through the lacteal and transported through lymph, not through the capillary network as seen in the glucose, galactose, fructose, and amino acids. Okay, so that completes the transport or the assimilation of the food products. So what is left? Now we need to look at, this went all the way to the top. Okay, we are left with hormones, right? The first one is the gastrin. This stimulates the production of HCl and pepsinogen. Okay, and the next is the dip. gastric inhibitory protein, or it is also called as Enterogastron. This, what does this do? It stops the gastric mobility and acidity. So the chyme which is produced from the stomach, it is acidic, right? So when you eat food that is laden with fat, when you eat fatty food, what happens is it needs long time for processing in the small intestine. That means you need to regulate the flow of it from the stomach. So it reduces the flow so that it can be acted upon and fully digested. So the gastric mobility and acidity is reduced by Enterogastron, so that the fatty acid will have more time to be acted upon by the lipids is produced by the pancreas and the intestine. And the next one is the secretin. Green. Now this stimulates the production of water and bicarbonates. These are all produced by the duodenum people. This is the only one produced by the stomach. The rest of them all are produced by the small intestines of the duodenum. The secretin stimulates the production of water and bicarbonates from the pancreas. Why? Because the chyme that is coming out of the food, semi-digested food coming out from the stomach is very acidic, right? So in order to neutralize the acidity, bicarbonates are produced, and that is helped by the secretin. The hormone that helps this is the secretin. The next is cholecystokinin, or black. Or it's also called as pancreocyme. Now they stimulate the pancreas to produce bile and the pancreatic juice respectively. Okay, so this releases the bile and the pancreas, so they can act upon the carbs, proteins, and fats and complete the digestive process. These are the main ones: the gastric inhibitory protein, secretin, and cholecystokinin. And then there is another one called enterokinin. That stimulates the production of suckers and rickets. Another word for intestinal juice. And there's also villikinin. This increases the movement of villi. These are the hormones that help in the stimulation or the production of different enzymes or different things from different parts. They're mostly produced from the duodenum, but one is produced from the stomach, that is gastric. And now, if we discuss about the abnormalities or the disorders of the digestion, then we complete the chapter. The first one is jaundice. Jaundice, you all might know about it, right? Your eyes turn yellow, your skin turns yellow when you lose loss of appetite. It's also called as anorexia. and you have your whites of the eyes turn yellow due to the deposition of bile pigments. And there is jaundice. Let's take black. Vomiting. And you all at one point or another have experienced this, right? So that is digestion through the mouth. There is a vomiting center in medulla oblongata. That helps in the reflux of whatever food that we ate from the stomach. The third and the fourth are opposite to each other. So that is diarrhea and constipation. These are kind of opposites because these produce loose motions, these produce hard feces. These are because of the regular, more frequent bowel movement. This is irregular bowel movement. In here, a lot of absorption doesn't take place because of the frequent movement of the bowel. You all know what diarrhea and constipation means. And the fifth one is the indigestion. Let's take that. That means digestion is not complete, but you feel full in the stomach. It's usually due to anxiety or overeating or eating spicy food. And one last thing that we need to understand before we close this chapter is the calorific value. Well, 1 gram of carb produces 4 kilocalories. 1 gram of protein gives you 4 kilocalories, and 1 gram of fat gives you 9 kilocalories. If they give you this, you can calculate this, right? If they give you 3 grams of protein, you just multiply it by 4. So you'll get 12 kilocalories from 3 grams of protein. So with that, we come to the end of the first chapter. Okay, review it. And the important things in this is learn about the different enzymes and the different kinds of the part of the component of the food that we eat, how they are digested, where they are digested, and what are the end products that we get at the different parts of the alimentary canal. Remember, try to learn about the functions of the liver and try to draw the alimentary canal from the mouth to the anus. Okay? Alright. Bye-bye.